talk, real talk, real talk, real talk, real talk.
Welcome to Real Talk for Real Teens, the show where we uniquely combine the information teens need with the entertainment teens want.
Hello, guys. Hello. This is Kim Creighton, and we are listening to another episode of Real Talk for Real Teens. So welcome. Today, my guest is Heather Mason, and I'm going to let Heather introduce herself to you guys.
Great. Thanks so much, Kim. Well, as she said, my name's Heather, and I have two hats. I own a conference company called A Caspian Production, but I'm also the founder of Surefire Girls, and it's a teen girl conference, and it's all about learning about the things you might not hear about at school or you might not hear about at home, but all the skills and tips you need to be successful in life and all the questions you want answered. So that's what I do, and I live in Los Angeles, California.
Okay, all right. So what 21st century skill will we be talking about today, Heather?
I'd love to talk about critical thinking.
Okay, so let's begin by you defining how you would define critical thinking.
Sure. The way that I would define critical thinking is really looking beyond the simple answers. A lot of what happens in the media or on the news or even sometimes at school is you hear one side and maybe not the other, or the other side is looked down upon, or the other side of the issue isn't really brought forth. And to me, critical thinking is maintaining a sense of curiosity, that both sides might have validity, that the opinions of folks going into a pretty hard discussion, whatever that might be about or issue, that the people who feel passionately about it might have one or two good points in their argument, or one or two things that there might be something to learn from them. And to me, critical thinking is really staying in that, or being willing to go into that gray area and kind of refusing to say it's all black and white until you've investigated all of the various issues and points, and only then making a decision, but not allowing that one fervent side or one passionate side or the other to make up your mind.
Okay. And I want to talk more about that gray area. Glad you brought that up, because much of life is not black and white. Though when we are presented with opinions and ideas or issues, it's usually presented to us in the black and white fashion as if it's either this or that, or this nor that. And you spend because school is like that. I guess for something. School is so much about right and wrong, black and white, good or bad, and that is so not the way the real world works. You hear a story, and let's say on the news, here a young lady was kidnapped a few days ago from her home. You have the whole community out looking for her. You have FBI coming in looking for her. And, the community is out. People, they have the sketches of these young men. And they find her, or she's rescued, whatever the case may be. And as the story comes, so if you left that at that place, that would be one thing. Yes, it's horrid. It's horrid what happened. So you're just thinking, oh, my God. So people are like, oh, my God, you're not safe in your home. This is a random. It just happened. Well, actually, it's coming out that mom may have known was arrested with one of the guys who, not the ones who broke in her house, but the ones who was actually with the young girl when they found her. And again, it's not a yes, exactly. It's not a yes or no, black and white. It's not saying mom did anything, they deserve it. It's not any of that. But it's sitting back and waiting for the full story to come out, or and not getting so wrapped up in that's wrong and that's right, or you becoming scared because you're thinking, oh, my God, these people are hitting our community. Well, no, there was a connection there that the FBI just didn't want to tell us about at the beginning because they have an ongoing investigation. You know, and it's,
exactly.
I don't know why that came to mind, but that was just a big thing. You know, everybody's everybody's looking for this young girl, and that makes sense. She's a 14-year-old, but that's not until you get the whole story. And even with the whole story, it's not going to make sense. But that just shows you that things aren't black and white.
Yeah, they aren't. And when we jump to conclusions before we know all the information, we risk getting angry or up in arms or celebratory or any of those emotions that we want to go and feel really quickly. We risk feeling them incorrectly if we aren't willing to take the time to analyze the situation. And I had a really good teacher in college, and he said something which has always stayed with me. And I don't do this enough, but I always notice when I don't do it. And he said, whenever you hear something that really makes you angry or, you know, pick an emotion or that you're so excited about or something that takes you from, 0 to 60 on the emotion scale immediately, ask 5 questions before you make up your mind. Ask 5 questions before you give an opinion. And I thought, or investigate 5 questions. And I thought that is such a good thought that before, in a sense, before we jump to the opinion of I'm not safe in my home, what are the 5 questions? Well, is this happening a lot? Have I seen a rash of home invasions lately? Are there what are the number of kids getting taken from our neighborhood? Asking those 5 questions would lead to a different decision rather than the emotional jump. And I think when we do those emotional jumps, we also can get mad at people that don't deserve it. You did this because of this. Why? Because I made up the reasons in my head.
And again, it's not saying condoning what happened. It's sitting back and letting the investigation take its place, letting the all the answers come out, so you can have a more informed.
Exactly.
You're more informed about the situation, and I want to be clear. I want to make sure it's not misunderstood, because people who know me know that I'm very blunt, and so I have to be mindful. I'm not going to say be careful, because I am what I am. I have to be very mindful that I'm very, very clear, and that's why I really work on. That's critical thinking for me. I'm very clear on what I say and what I mean, so there's no ambiguity. So I want to make it clear that I'm not saying that nothing was wrong or that this wasn't a serious situation. But what I'm saying is it's just an example of much of life is not black and white, period.
Right, exactly. And I think that when we start out, to me, when you're, growing up as a small child, you are taught black and white. Don't touch the stove. You'll get burned. Don't do this, do this. There's a lot of black and white instructions we have to receive as a toddler, because we're not going to accept the gray. You can touch the stove, win us off, or maybe it's, done for 15 minutes. That explanation is not going to take place. So because we're so used to growing up in black and white, by the time we hit, I think, our teenage years, we want to continue in that. This person's a good person, that person's a bad person. This girl is a popular girl I don't like, so I'm going to be mean to her because that's who she is. This girl is a nice girl. Or this guy's nice and this guy's, I don't like him. And so I think we almost
they're driving this, that means that they're driving this, so that means that they have money. Well, no, that means that their parents may have hawked their lives to the hilt and have nothing.
Exactly. This celebrity is popular and famous, and the world is looking to her, so I want to be like that. It's like, well, let's have critical thinking. Is her life happy? Asking those 5 questions. Not only that, but are you willing to do the work to get to where she is, for the attention to be on her? Do you understand all that she had to do that you have not seen for her to get that? And that she still is. The sacrifices that are being made, and to me that comes with those 5 questions. What is she giving up? Everybody just doesn't get everything. It's not the bucket is only full. the bucket is also empty on one side as well, if you get that. And, you know, you may have less friends, or your friends, you may not know if they're your friends, and you're constantly striving to be at the top. And I think especially when it comes to fame, and those 15 minutes of fame and the glorification of how wonderful those lives may be, to me, that's where critical thinking really comes into play. Of are we really examining what their life is on a daily basis and their happiness level, really? I'm gonna go into popular culture again. I was reading this article about Gosling, you know, the father of the John and Kate is 8. He was saying how it's just oh my God, how much his life has changed. He is a waiter at a restaurant now. Right. You know, this is what and he right. I mean, it's like it's nothing like he's not paying child support because he says they have equal, you know, with their kids are at my house that they don't that I buy the stuff and she doesn't buy it, blah blah blah, whatever. Yeah. But it was it's a whole. I mean, 3 years ago, whenever that show was on, that's all you could hear about was Kate and John and Kate and 8 or whatever. And now this man is waiting tables, and there's nothing wrong with waiting tables. But he didn't get as much out of his 15 minutes as I think he thought he would have. Exactly. Well, and I think that's also where the critical thinking comes in. It's like, what was he seeking, and what was his return on investment, and what are any of us seeking? Yeah. I mean, you know, to me, that's the first question: is are we seeking all the money in the world, and if so, then what's next? What happens after you get all the money in the world? What happens after you get all the fame in the world? You know, most people, and there's such a great little story I heard this one speaker say, and he said this guy went on vacation to some island or whatever, and he saw this guy fishing, and he was catching a great amount of fish, you know, as he was just tossing in his line and having a great time sitting out there. And he said, you know, this business guy who was on vacation said to the guy who lived there, you know, if you actually hired a couple more people, you'd catch more fish. And the guy said, and then what? You know, the fisherman. And he said, well, if you catch more fish and you hire more people, well, you could eventually set up a whole operation here. And he goes, well, and then what? He said, well, if you did that, you could start exporting all of these fish all over the world, and you could make millions of dollars. And the guy looks at him and he goes, and then what? He goes, well, then you can spend all your time sitting on a beach on an island fishing. I just thought, what a great story, you know? And then what? And again, we're not saying that there's nothing, that there's anything wrong with ambition and wanting things. That's not what we're saying, not at all. Guys. We want to be clear about that. But what's the intention behind it? That's what she's saying. Exactly. What's the intention behind it? Because example of that show, had it been, I don't know what a lot of these reality shows, and it's not me saying there's something wrong with them. I just don't know what the intention is behind beyond entertainment. Yeah. But if it's purely for entertainment, if that is the only goal, right? Then as a person who's gonna, because the network, the producers, they're getting their money. So as the talent on the show that's solely just for entertainment, I'm going to make sure I get everything I need to that's going to keep me beyond when the entertainment cycle is over. Yes, exactly. Well, and being smart about it. Yeah. Yes, exactly. And being smart about the investment. Right. Yeah. And I like how you said investment of time. What are you, that investment of time? That return on investment. Because that's what you need to be thinking about. If I'm doing this, that keeps me from doing something else, which is critical thinking. If I'm doing this, that means I can't be doing that. Now, what's the return on investment for both of these things? Exactly. What's my sacrifice? What am I giving up? And I also think I was saying that's why I left my job as a teacher. I was saying that's why I left my job as a teacher. Yes, I had benefits and I had a steady income and blah, blah, blah. That's what, that's that black and white thing. But on return on investment, if I'm at work from 7:45 to 3:45, that means there's certain things that I can't do if I want to run my business. Yeah, I could have done them at the same time, like a lot of people do, but could I have done it the way I'm doing it now? No. Also, I might have been in conflict with what my school district believe or what their things mandate and all that. And then that means I'm putting my
teacher certificate in jeopardy. So that is what thinking about all those things when you're saying ask those 5 questions were the things I thought about when I left my job.
Well, that's exactly it. It's the sacrifices. It's what we're giving up, and it's what we're going to get in return. And I think that to me is a big part, especially as a teen when they're starting to look forward. I'll talk to some folks who will say, I want to do this so I can make a lot of money. And I always think, to me, my question is, and then what? What do you really want? And that to me is the critical thinking is, what do you really want? And asking that question is often hard because it does make you go down the and then what route. But that to me will have a more fulfilling answer and less kind of chasing things that don't end up being what you really were hoping to get. Because I think the other thing, I was just going to say the other thing is I was just thinking about critical thinking with peer pressure, because there's a lot of that happens at this point too. And really placing the critical thinking lens on what everyone else is doing is another area that I think is really important. But I don't know if you had a thought. I didn't want to cut you off there.
Yeah, no, that's a great point because I've always said I could respect a young person who knows the rules and makes a choice to break the rule. So let's say if there's and is willing to deal with the consequences of it. So let's say there's a party going on, and you have a curfew for a certain time, and you're like, you know what, I'm having too much fun, but I know what the consequences are. So when you walk into that house and you miss your curfew, there is no debating, there is no justifying, there is no nothing. Yeah. You take your doggone lump. It's not sneaking in the house, it's not lying, it's not doing everything because everybody else was. No, it's not that. It's I was having a great time and I made the choice to stay.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, exactly. And then you're weighing return on investment in a lot of ways. You're saying I was willing to give up because there will be sacrifices. Whatever your parents decide is the sacrifice in order to get this gain of staying at the party or whatever it is.
And,
hanging out with your friends.
And you're still hanging with your friends, but it's the peer part, but not the pressure part.
Right. Yeah.
Because you're still with the peers because you're like, hey, I'm having fun, but it's not. I'm oh my God, the whole time you're there because now you can't relax because you passed your curfew, so you're freaking out. All of that. It's hey, you know what? I'm gonna do this.
Yep. Right. Exactly. I would agree. Yeah. I think we could have an entire talk about taking personal responsibility because
oh my God,
and I know that's separate, but I do think
thinking.
There's something. Yeah. Exactly. And I think there's something really freeing in personal responsibility.
Oh, my God, yes.
There's something freeing in saying, I know what I did, and I accept what happened because of it.
I have young people who get so mad. They get so mad because I call them my daughters and sons, so they get so mad if they've done something and somebody else comes and tells me before they do. Oh, they are pissed. They are, Mama, I was going to come tell you. Damn it, who said that? Because I was going to come tell you they talk too much. Because I know you don't want to hear it from anybody else. That's right. You do it, that's fine. But don't tell me I don't want to hear it from anybody else. And don't give me any excuses.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly. It's funny. At my company, we have what we call a Caspian apology, and we could just as easily call it a surefire girl apology. And it's a formula, and that's exactly it. I always say, hey, I love good news, but I want bad news faster. And the way I want bad news is,
oh my God, I love that. I love that.
Exactly. That comes from my dad, so I have to give him credit. But, love bad news, want bad news faster. You should be running with the bad news. And the bad news comes in, this is what happened. It will never happen again. I have no excuses. And here's what I'm going to do to make sure it never happens again.
Yes.
And then you shut up. And then you stop talking.
Yes.
And that's what we say. And that's what we say to our clients whenever and I have had folks mess up on my staff, and I've messed up, of course. And I do the same thing. You pick up the phone, you run towards the pain with open arms, and you say, "This is what happened. This is
my bad.
What I recommend. This is my bad. No excuses. And here's what I'm going to do to make sure it never happens again." Then you shut up and you let the person yell at you or whatever they're going to do.
Yes, because it's like, and I tell them all the time, it's saying, Yeah, you may have great reasons and explanations, but no one wants to hear it. They want to hear how you're going to fix it. That's all they care about. That's all they care about.
That's all they care about.
How are you going to fix it? And how are you going to change it? So I hate when people say, hell, first of all, don't force the kids to apologize to me because that means you did it and they didn't. That means absolutely nothing to me. And then to say I'm sorry or to apologize means I won't do it again. So if that's not your intention, then don't apologize to me, period. If it's not your intention not to change that behavior, then don't apologize to me.
Yeah, I would agree, because then it's not an apology. It's just it's elongating when it's going to happen again. It's a delay tactic. Yeah. Until you do it again. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
like here's something.
We've been talking. I haven't taken my first break, so let me just take this first little break.
Sure, you bet.
Follow us on Facebook at Real Talk for Real Teens and on Twitter at RTFRT Radio.
And I'm also going to give this second little break right quick because I know we're almost out of time, and I want to make sure we talk and you get your 3 points in. And I see you and I can talk about this forever, so let me know it's going to get this other little break in.
New or unknown music artists, we need you for the show. If you'd like your own mini concert, please send a request for information to realtalkforrealteens@gmail.com.
Okay, so I'm talking to we're having a very good conversation, enjoying ourselves, and we're talking about critical thinking this tirade, this thing that's going on really just started from the whole there's really no black and white. There is various shades of gray. And in the various shades of gray, there's certain things that are your responsibility in the critical thinking process.
Mhm. Absolutely. And it's our responsibility too to dig deeper and to not just go with the first thing we see. And I think especially because of the purveyance of media. In fact, the nice thing is even the news stations have shown us how bad it is if they don't do critical thinking, and they've failed in a large-scale capacity, which is great, because then I think, as an example to all of us teens, you can see what happens when people don't do critical thinking. I mean, I forget what happened with a recent news story, the Navy Yard issue. They all were reporting all sorts of wrong information because they wanted to jump to conclusions before they asked questions.
And they wanted to be the first network to have it on the air.
Absolutely, and they had an opinion, and I think that's training us to accept that's how you do it. You jump to an opinion as fast as possible, and critical thinking to me is the opposite. It's looking at something, studying it, asking the questions, and saying, there's probably more here. And anytime somebody comes out and says that side is 100% wrong, that's when I usually know, that's my signal to say, well, I've rarely met people in my life who feel smart, you know what I mean, who are well-spoken, who seem reasonable. Even if I disagree with them, heart and soul, there's got to be one thing that I could accept that's valid from their point of view. Just one, just one. Just one tiny moment where I can say, I can see why you feel that way. And if we can't do that, then I think we're in danger of just becoming these, blowhard pundits that we see on the news of saying one side is just wrong. One side is all wrong, and they're horrible people because of it.
and that's what I find myself with all these issues that are, be they Amanda Knox, be they Trayvon Martin, be they what was the young lady who was in Florida who was acquitted. I forgot her name.
Oh, yes, I did. I'm glad you forgot her name, and me too. Yeah, Kaylee.
Yeah.
Casey Anthony.
I find myself even with OJ back in the day, I find myself refraining from engaging in such conversations because it gets to a point where no matter what this is something I believe. Facts can change, truth remains the same. And I'll explain that. When I was growing up, the fact was Pluto was a planet. The truth is they've changed. They've decided based on analysis and data and measuring, Pluto is no longer a planet. So, or after a country became a communist or a dictatorship or whatever, they changed all the history books. So now that became their history. Just because
Yep.
it's a fact does not make it true. So
Right.
I often find that people, yes, those were very emotional, topics, and people felt they had to rally and protest, and I choose not to do that. And because the reason I choose not to do that is, like you said, I don't have all the information.
Right.
And at that point,
Yep.
it's all emotion.
Exactly. Well,
and no one
and
can explain it. And people can't explain their emotions. You can't justify an emotion. It is what it is.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and I think exactly. It's and even with this, I mean, I will say on the other side, I encourage all teens, young people, to have an opinion, and to feel like they have one, and that they can say, hey, this is what I believe. But I am saying critical thinking comes before that. If you've done that and you have an opinion, go with it and feel strong about your opinion, as long as there's one part of you that can at least understand the other side, or understand where they're coming from. And if you can have that place and have your strong opinion, then I feel like you've gone through the motions. If it's just been a jump and the other side are evil, then I think nothing's really happened.
Yeah, that's the danger. And just an example of the Trayvon Martin case. The juror said, based on the law, and that's just the bottom line. It's based on the law. He was not guilty. They could not provide an opinion on whether they thought, and that's not what their job was. And so that's why I'm being clear about what I'm saying. I'm not saying condoning that he was killed by Zimmerman or any of that. But when you look at the whole thread of things, it's not just, for me, it's not just that thing. It's sad that young man died. I wouldn't wish that on any parent or anybody.
No.
It's just when you're having to go, before you speak that opinion, make sure that there's something that it's something that feels good in you. Because I find that a lot of people, not even with this, just on a whole lot of people, one example is Christmas time. I don't know why that just popped in my head. People get so pissed that people are saying, why are we saying happy holidays? Why are we saying happy holidays? Okay. Now, if you want to get into a conversation with Kim Creighton about that, I'm going to explain to you why I don't buy Christmas cards. I buy holiday cards because I know people of many different faiths, and everybody does not believe in Christ. And so I don't think, and also the United States was built on a separation of church and state, whether you like it or not.
Right. Yep,
so
that is exactly how we were built. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like, again, sometimes I find I have to close my mouth because it does me no good to get in conversation with them when my level of critical thinking has brought me to one conclusion that's not going to be the popular one in the group. Exactly.
But I still, and I would support, though, all of the reasons that you can bring to say why. And I think that's good. And I think that if it's not attacking and it's not vicious, and it also isn't personal, like these people are bad people, I think that's when we get to the point where the critical thinking is thrown out the door. It's like, hey, this is why I believe this. This is what I think. And anybody who doesn't think this is not bad. I'm disagreeing with them, and that's what I get to do. But I'm not going to vilify people who are not, trying to attack.
It's not going to be you against me. Exactly. It's not going to be you against me. Yeah. And that's why I said the arguments that I had were I know people who are of other faiths who are celebrating something at this time of year. And also that is who we are. That's what America stands on, is built on. Those are truth. Those are not facts. Those are truth. So,
exactly.
And I'll say that, and then that'll be about the extent of my conversation about those things.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's it.
But that also takes a lot of courage.
Absolutely. And I think, and it also takes a place of you feeling comfortable with the decision that you've come to, and I think that's when the emotion starts to go out and the real solid power of what you believe comes out. Hey, this is what I believe, and it's not meant to attack you. Its purpose is not to attack. Its purpose is to say, this is where I'm at, and if you want to give me more information about why you think something different, I'm here to hear it. Because, hey, why would I shut out any additional information? Why would I shut out any additional opinions? They're not going to hurt me. In fact, for heaven's sakes, I might actually learn something. or have
Exactly.
my eyes open to another way of thinking. And if I don't, great, but at least I've heard you. I've heard your opinion, and I've allowed that into my mind because I don't fear it. And to me, critical thinking is also about not fearing information or opinions. When I'm not in fear of information or opinions, I can actually be in a place where I have a view and still allow information in. I can still disagree. I can still say, even with that information, I'm still holding this opinion. Whatever. Call me a crazy person, but I will. But I don't have to deny it. You know what I mean? I don't have to say no more information.
And I don't have to defend myself. I don't have to defend. I don't have to deflect everything you say off mine because it's okay.
Right.
We can be here with different opinions because there's a gray area. Allow the gray area to be the gray area.
Right, exactly. And,
all right.
It's interesting. Yeah. Anyway, I could go on and on. You're right.
Exactly. That's why I was like, wow. Okay, give us your 3 tips, and then tell us about your conference coming up, and we'll be gone.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I would say my top 3 tips for developing critical thinking are, first, look for the opinion that you disagree with the most, and find one thing that has merit, or one thing you could understand why a person felt that way. Just one. And it has to be in an opinion you absolutely disagree with. I would say the second is when you're looking at something that looks really easy, look for the one hard thing. And I guess I think of that with fame. Like those people have it so easy. They have all the money. They have all the – look for the one hard thing. And make sure you know one hard thing, or else, you're living in a dream world.
And that's that thing about going below the surface. Don't stay on the surface of topics. So just because you've seen something, go below the surface on it. Okay, I got you. And what's your third?
My third is be curious. I love that word because it puts you in a state of investigation rather than in decision-making. And until you're curious first and decisive second, you haven't done your thinking. And when I look at curious, I'm thinking specifically for girls. I'll tell you about the girls' conference, but also for boys. When you're looking at those magazines of all the people who look perfect and skinny or whatever they look like, be curious. Is that really true? Do they really look like that? They're giving me these tips about how to be like them. Is that really what's happening here? Just be curious until you have all the information. And that could also be with an issue, too, any issue. What's going on in our world or a world issue. Be curious first and decisive second.
Yeah, I like that.
So
give us the name of your conference again.
Sure. The conference is called, you bet, it's called Surefire, and you can find us at surefiregirls.com. So surefiregirls.com, and it's meant to be a lot like, so I love Oprah, so it's a lot like an Oprah Live Your Best Life conference. It's everything you'd ever want to know that you want to ask questions about, and it's for high school girls. So, and we're launching in LA first, so it's in Los Angeles on October 12th, and it's from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. And we have sessions on, it's a place to ask questions about everything you'd want to know about. We have sessions on friends and frenemies, how you deal with relationships with your friends or with people who are not your friends, social media, self-image. We're going to have a guy who, is photo-touched before for big magazines. We're going to have a session on fitness, internships, poise and presentation, how you can speak to people in a business setting or a professional setting. And we also have a parents track. We have Randy Zuckerberg speaking. And we also, at the very end of the day, Betty DeGeneres, Ellen's mom, who will be talking about how she has had a journey with her daughter, Ellen, and celebrating that journey, and that every daughter has her own path. So surefiregirls.com, and I can even give your listeners a special code just for listening in today. The code is UNIQUE. So UNIQUE is the code. That will get you in free to our conference, and that's good for a free parent or a free teenager. So we wanted to give that out to your listeners today.
Well, thank you very much, and I've had a great time talking to you. And
I have had an excellent time, Kim. This is wonderful. We could talk all day, I think.
Yes, we could. Yes, we could. Take care and much success with what you're doing.
All right. Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it, and best to all you do.
All right. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye.
The Real Talk for Real Teens community is the premier membership organization for young professionals. Real Talk for Real Teens community provides the most comprehensive resources and education designed to advance the skills, integrity, and value of its members as professionals. Become a member at www.rtfrtc.com. Thank you for listening, and join us every Sunday through Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern for more Real Talk for Real Teens.